Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Fed Up, your no BS nutrition podcast. I'm your host, Kayla Marie, certified personal trainer and nutrition specialist, working with clients since 2014. After swimming up diet culture's bullshit stream for so many years, I am fed the absolute up with how miserable it's making people feel when we are supposed to be getting healthier. This podcast is here to help you gain your sanity back so you can stop yo-yoing once and for all and finally learn how to trust yourself so you can enjoy food again without fear or shame while still getting to your health goals. My aim is to teach you how to detect the BS in not just the food and diet industries, but in all realms of life, because I know that, like me, we are all just a little fed up. So without further ado, let's dive into today's episode. Hello, and welcome on back to another episode of Fed Up. Thank you so much for being here. I am excited to share that this is the first episode after I have graduated. I now have a Bachelor's of Science degree in food and nutrition. Yay! How amazing. And that has really led me to today's episode because I wanted to talk about when healthy is not really considered healthy. And as a health coach, a personal trainer for the past decade, I have noticed that a lot of people, when they hear I am a personal trainer or that I am studying nutrition, then they think that the version of healthy or the version of fitness that is expected of them, they either want to tell me what they've been doing, like how they cut the carbs and they are doing CrossFit and they run 10 miles a day or whatever, or they want to tell me like why they have not been doing those things or like ask me about injuries and stuff, which is kind of funny. But a lot of people assume that because I'm a nutritionist, because I have my degree in nutrition, because I've been a personal trainer, I'm all about health, that of course the health that they are assuming is what we see in mainstream, where we're looking at extreme diets and restriction and certain foods are bad and you can't have any added sugar. And then they find out I'm a baker or that I enjoy pizza pretty frequently or that I have ice cream in my fridge right now. Then they are a little bit shocked. Or I've had people ask me or say to me, really, they blatantly just, it's a statement more than anything else. They're like, oh, you don't eat any of this this stuff as they motion to the dessert or whatever. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, of course, health is more than just eating clean or eating perfect according to some weird, again, extreme diet that, the mainstream media picked up and it was trendy for a few years or a few decades, and people associate that with health. And so I want to talk about 8 things today that may seem healthy, but you may want to reevaluate your motives or dig a little deeper into if this is something that is helping your health or maybe even hurting your health, though the behavior may look the same. So number 1, I want to talk about a heavy reliance on quote unquote diet foods, which you may not even realize are diet foods, but also like protein bars or protein snacks, or like the heavy reliance on rice cakes, or I don't know, like a lot of people will just eat like, oh, I have a protein bar for lunch, and then I might have another protein bar like in the afternoon, and then I have a protein bar post-workout. Like I've had people have 2 to 3 different types of protein bars every day, and then they have a protein shake, and then they also have a protein hot chocolate, and then they also have a protein. So like diet or like low fat everything and low calorie everything in the 80s has now turned into high protein everything, which I'm not saying that high protein snacks or protein bars are bad or that they're considered unhealthy. But again, you may want to evaluate your relationship with them if you are having a heavy reliance on protein bars. Now, as with all of this, there are individual circumstances where people can only really manage to eat a protein bar every single morning for breakfast. And like, I'm not, again, saying that that's bad, but maybe 1 protein bar a day is, very normal for you, and that's fine. Other people, again, it's like anytime they are reaching for a snack or they're hungry, they just grab something that is kind of that protein bar or the, quote unquote, I'm just going to like drink bone broth. Like a lot of people will, those types of health foods can have their place, and I'm not saying that they're bad, but your relationship on them or your reliance on them may need some some reevaluation. So, number 2 with that is healthifying every dessert with protein or sugar substitutes or things like that. So like you don't have to make a black bean sweet potato brownie, concoction to make it healthier. You can just have regular brownies. However, making a sweet potato brownie might be kind of fun to do and it adds some fiber and nutrition. And then you can have like chocolate sweet potato. Like that's very exciting. But if you are replacing all of your desserts with these like low calorie, low sugar, I replace all my sugar with applesauce. And again, I'm just going to keep repeating myself here. When you have diabetes, when you have like certain health conditions that maybe you do need to modify your sugar. I'm not saying these things are bad, but what is your relationship with them? Are you afraid to eat a real cupcake if it has added sugar and then you obsess over each single ingredient and you feel like you have to make every single thing from scratch and like healthify it, add cottage cheese, add a protein powder scoop, and like you can just enjoy oatmeal. Like it doesn't have to be bulked up with protein and supplements and all those other quote unquote health foods. You can just have the oatmeal. You can just have a piece of bread. It doesn't have to be a keto bread or a high protein bread or anything like that. And I tend to rotate breads. I love bread, but I will grab whole wheat occasionally, or I'll have even, dare I say, 2 breads at one time where I will home make sourdough. I will also store buy sourdough sometimes. I will buy my whole wheat because I tend not to bake whole wheat, but I will also eat an English muffin, right? So like being able to add variety, and again, you're not obsessing over everything has to be whole wheat. Everything has to be, only this many calories or only this many ingredients, etc., etc. Number 3. Along with this, if you have these food rules of only buying organic or only eating raw foods, I'm not going to even talk about like vegans and vegetarians because again, you can have a relationship with your dietary pattern that is restrictive for some people, but incredibly like beneficial and easy, and you thrive on a vegetarian diet. Whereas somebody else who's going to attempt a vegetarian diet ends up failing miserably, becoming way more stressed out, and they really don't understand or they haven't really internalized why they want to be a vegetarian. That's sometimes what it is. And so when you only buy low calorie, only buy organic, only buy blah, 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 you want to look at really, is this helping you? Is this hurting you? And I come from the perspective of the food itself is never actually harmful. Again, unless you're allergic or unless you are, diabetic and you're not counting carbohydrates and then you have an insulin dosage problem, right? There are real life situations where the nutrition has to be pretty dialed in. But I'm not talking to those folks in this episode. So there's nothing wrong with choosing a 200 calorie snack. But if your food rule is that your calories or like your snacks only have to be 100 calories and your meals have to be 300 calories and you can only have protein bar if it has a certain ratio of protein to calories, like all of those things can be okay to monitor or to look at a nutrition label, that's fine. But if you are doing all of this like obsessive math or, oh, this protein bar is bad and this protein bar is good and I'm not going to eat this even though I'm starving and this is my only option, I'd rather go hungry than eat this like high calorie protein bar, then like that is where I maybe have like a yellow turning red flag, because I don't want you to become consumed with, again, nitpicking things when it's not really the food itself, but the relationship with it that has a lot more impact on your health. And like, again, I love ice cream, but sometimes the Ben & Jerry's I should not buy because I tend to eat the whole thing, or I tend to eat a lot more because I eat directly out of the container when it's like the Ben & Jerry's small pint or the Haagen-Dazs, versus if I buy a half gallon and then I always just use about 2 scoops and then I might throw like a little bit of whipped cream on it, and like that satisfies me, and I like to eat it out of a mug or out of one of my cute dessert dishes, and like I can have ice cream in the fridge or in the freezer and it's no problem. But sometimes buying Ben & Jerry's I have to be careful about. But I still do occasionally, for sure. And then also occasionally I will buy slow churned ice cream because that has reduced saturated fat. And we know that saturated fat is what increases your LDL cholesterol. It's what increases your risk of heart attack and attributes to even insulin resistance. So we want to, sure, reduce our saturated fat. Maybe you're replacing your bacon with turkey bacon if you enjoy bacon every day, versus if you're having regular bacon once or twice a week, it's probably fine. Again, quality, quantity, context, all of those things matter. Okay, moving on. Those are the first three, really, which is like I could have probably put all of that into one, but I wanted to really emphasize the different ways that you can have, okay, you're relying on protein bars and chomp sticks and protein shakes when you probably need to be eating a little bit more real food. Number two, you're healthifying every dessert. You're eating cottage cheese and sweet potatoes in all of your desserts rather than just having the dessert, because a lot of these people, again, they will healthify a lot of things and then they still end up binging or overeating the real stuff. Like you'll have the healthy chia pudding, but then you still want the ice cream because it didn't quite satisfy the same. And then number three, that you are buying low calorie, low fat, you're only buying organic, you're only buying protein bars that have a certain ratio or this or that. And that doesn't mean that you cannot choose the bread that has higher protein or higher fiber. I actually recommend that. It doesn't mean you can't choose the ice cream that has lower saturated fat. I do that. But again, evaluate your relationship with it. Number four, fasting or time-restricted eating. Now, there is a goodness in regularly eating in a timely fashion, meaning there are some times that you don't have hunger fullness cues, or you've been ignoring your hunger for so long, you only eat one meal a day, and maybe you have something that is going on with your gut or going on with your energy levels, or whatever it may be. I just recommend it for mostly everybody is to eat maybe every 3 to 4 hours. And that is not time restricted eating. Other people too, if they have a tendency to late night snack a lot and they already had dinner, they're full, but they're just snacking because they're bored. Sure, giving yourself like a cutoff at around 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. or not eating 2 hours before dinner or not eating 2 hours before bedtime because you have acid reflux. Those are good and healthful things that you can incorporate that could really be beneficial. However, trying to force yourself to skip breakfast and wait until 1 p.m., you're already used to ignoring your hunger. That doesn't help anybody. And all of the intermittent fasting research that we see, a lot of it is the benefit for a slight calorie restriction and the intermittent fasting part is better to do overnight. So it's better to have an early dinner around 4 p.m. and then fast from 5 p.m. to 7 a.m. than it is to fast from 8 p.m. to 1 p.m. the next day. So just going to throw that out there. And eating breakfast regulates your blood sugar. It regulates your energy levels. It is a magical thing that you should be doing. And of course, you're not going to have hunger cues at first. Your ghrelin, which is your hunger hormone, is typically lowest in the morning. And if you're not used to it, it's going to be even lower. And then you have coffee, which is also an appetite suppressant. So again, timing yourself and saying, okay, I'm going to eat around 7 a.m. I'm going to eat around noon. I'm going to eat a snack around 3. I'm going to have dinner at around 5 and then stop eating around 9 or something like that. That is not necessarily what I'm talking about. It's when you ignore your hunger and fullness cues so much so that you're trying to fit yourself into a box that like somebody else gave you. Or if you're starving and you're like on the road and it's freaking midnight and you're like, I haven't eaten and I'm starving and, but I can't eat past 8. Like that would be a food rule that is going against your health, because if you haven't eaten, you should probably eat even if it's 8:30. And of course, there is some research that says like chronic late night meals, like if you're somebody who eats at 11 p.m. all the time, you can be at more risk for insulin resistance and other things. However, it is better to eat than not to eat most of the time. So again, evaluate your relationship with your time restricted eating or your cutoff periods. I also don't recommend being the type of person to like close the kitchen for anybody else, like mind your business for one, but being able to listen to your body and be like, oh man, I am hungry right before I go to bed. Maybe I should have a little snack, some cheese, I don't know, something with some fiber, some protein, bowl of cereal, something like that, that can kind of fill you up a little bit and regulate your blood sugar overnight can be really helpful for some people. Other people need to learn to stop snacking all hours of the night because you're just looking for dopamine. So again, to each their own, but evaluate. Number 5, if you are only keeping small portions of treats or you're avoiding having any off limits, unhealthy, bad foods in the house, and then you are thinking that like, oh, I don't binge, I don't have temptation because like I don't keep it in the house. Well, it's kind of like saying you don't have a problem because you don't go to therapy. You know what I mean? So someone recently told me that she uses like the single serve ice cream cups. She buys those from the grocery store because then she only has one. And then when it's gone, and she doesn't binge, right? And then I go, well, what would happen if you did have a half a gallon of ice cream in your freezer? And she said, oh, I would go back and I would eat like 10 scoops. And I'm like, well, what if you just like scooped it out and gave yourself 2 scoops, maybe some chocolate, maybe some whipped cream, some sprinkles, maybe even 3 scoops? Go crazy. And she goes, oh no, I would finish that and then I'd go back and have 10 more. And I'm like, okay, so you haven't really dealt with the root cause of your binging or like why you feel out of control. You just think you're out of control around sugar, so I'm just going to avoid it. And this can look good on the outside. Like, and again, I'm not recommending that you have a whole bunch of junk food in your house, but people are surprised how much sugar and stuff I have in my house. And it's really so that I'm not binging. If I all of a sudden trying to eat really healthy and I'm meal prepping and then I like get rid of all the sweets in my house, I still pick up a Snickers from the gas station. I will still go through the Dairy Queen drive-thru and get a McFlurry. McFlurry, that's from McDonald's. Whatever. I will still get ice cream whenever I'm out. I will still have a dessert and like overly eat the dessert, not want to share it, right? When I go out to eat with friends or something. So this is what's happening a lot of times too, is people will eat really clean at home, but then when they go out or they travel or they're on the road or like, again, somebody brings in cupcakes to the office or something's off plan, then they have no control around it. And I would much rather I try to help my clients like gain back the actual control over those types of foods and that you can decide to eat the cupcake or not. And it actually serves you. Like you realize, oh, I don't actually want the cupcake. And it's not from cutting out sugar. That's what a lot of people have wrong. It's like, oh, you just cut out sugar, you detox from it, and then your cravings go away. No, cravings are caused by restriction. So mental or physical, if you are somebody with a sweet tooth, honor the sweet tooth. And that's a lot of times how you can reduce the binge. So number 6, and we've kind of mentioned this throughout, but if you are avoiding certain ingredients out of fear of chemicals, out of, the behavior is avoiding a certain additive or avoiding red dye or avoiding whatever it may be. And sure, you can just like kind of choose not to have Skittles and licorice and like a lot of processed foods. That's probably great. But if you are like forcing that on your children, if you are, overly obsessive on the nutrition label that it's like interfering with your life, if you are cutting out major food groups, cutting out certain foods, and especially if they are kind of your favorite foods, or if you're so limited to the foods that you are allowing yourself to eat. And my biggest issue here is when those people become a megaphone for more misinformation or for trying to enforce their particular diet onto everybody else. So your kids can't have a birthday cake. You're freaking out over your child having licorice, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And yeah, we all want everybody to be healthy, but this is when you don't realize how much that can impact then the people around you, and they're binging and they're hiding food and they're uncertain of, eating certain foods now. And maybe that's some of their like favorite foods that they rely on to get major nutrients in. So we want to be conscientious of that. And that's where number 7 is if you are assuming that other people should eat exactly what you do. Of course, if you are afraid of certain foods and you're telling everybody this is a bad food, don't eat that. If you are commenting on people's plates, if you are commenting on people's portion sizes, if you are following a lot of people that are after views, clicks, and monetization, they are going to be telling you, don't eat these foods, blah, blah, blah. They're going to be very polarizing. All foods fit. Food is food. Good food is good food. And yes, you should be eating more fruits, vegetables, legumes, fish. You should be eating more lean meats. You should be eating, all of these types of healthful, whole foods. But that doesn't mean like Fruity Pebbles is poison. You know what I mean? And number 8, look at your food rules and your habits. I'm only allowed one sweet a day. I'm only allowed dessert after savory items. And then you wonder why you always want something sweet after savory. It's because you've conditioned yourself to do that. If you are eating during TV and movies, if you're eating in your car, if you're hiding things, if you're counting your nuts out to make sure you're only eating one portion size, like there are these really sneaky ways that we don't realize we're really kind of like controlling the narrative around our food, and it's causing us a lot more stress. Now, again, this is not saying that you cannot be choosing to eat a salad and vegetables and fiber and protein, but you want to evaluate your relationship with it so that you're not becoming what we call orthorexic, which is those super healthy, clean eating, nothing bad, quote unquote. And it's really interfering with their life, quality of life, and their like the people around them and their relationships and the way that other people view themselves and view their bodies and view food that they are eating, right? And we don't realize how deep these things go and how far and wide that it will radiate from you if you don't get them under control, or at least acknowledge when those, thoughts come up. So hope this helps. And I hope you, learned something or thought of somebody that could benefit from this and you want to send them the episode. I would appreciate it. Love you. And if this is something that you would really love to work with somebody on, I am taking one-to-one nutrition clients. So visit my website, kaylamariefitness.com, and you can apply or just send me a DM or an email or something like that too. So looking forward to chatting at you next week. Everyone have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye. Thanks so much for being here, friends. If you enjoyed this episode, please screenshot and tag me over on Instagram or leave a 5-star review wherever you are listening from. Your support means the world to me and only helps me get the no BS news out to more people. If you're interested in working with me in nutrition or personal training, check out my programs and courses on my website at kaylamariefitness.com and on Instagram at kaylamarie_fit. See you next week.